I'm Cushla McFadden. I'm the Sydney Director of Interior Design company Tom Mark Henry. So we are currently on Dharawal country, which is the very northern part of the New South Wales south coast. We used to visit the area quite often on our weekends and loved driving down the coast road and driving through Coldale. And the second you hit the Seacliff Bridge, coming into the suburbs like Scarborough, Wombara, you feel your heart rate drop, you feel a sense of calm, and there's space, there's views, there's light. You've got the escarpment to the west, the ocean to the east, and it's just always felt like a really special place to us, and we're very happy to now call it home. We moved from the inner west of Sydney, from Annandale. We loved the area, but at the time we really valued being close to family and having more space. We moved to the area in 2020, so my husband and I and our then one-year-old son. It was the middle of the pandemic and we wanted a change of scenery because we weren't travelling. So we did a temporary move down here. We always knew we wanted to settle here long term, but at the time didn't really believe it was possible until much later. We bought a rundown cottage on about 460 square metres of land with the view to maybe do something with it one day. What grabbed us about the site was definitely the location. Like, the views are just amazing. You can see straight out to the ocean, and the land slopes quite a bit, which does make it trickier to build on. But because we built the studio at the back and the house at the front, it actually works in our favour because the views are accessible from all points of the site because it slopes from west down to east. So that influenced how we laid out the site by locating the studio at the back. And we did just landscape the area outside to make it more accessible and usable. Our vision for the house was to retain as much of the original cottage as possible. We kept windows and doors mostly in existing locations. We kept all the external walls and roof form and really just transformed the interiors. So it's now a lot more open. We did relocate the kitchen and the living areas to the front of the house, which is east facing, so that maximises the ocean view. It feels a lot more open, light, bright. The interventions were mainly to pull as much light into the space as possible, to open it up and to really freshen up the interiors and give them a new life. Really just improve the living conditions of the environment, and we are quite passionate about adaptive reuse and not just like knocking it down and rebuilding. We very much could have done that on this block, but we wanted to, for sustainability reasons, but also just to respect the history of the site, leave it as much as in its original miners cottage condition as we could, but modernising the home to suit the way we live as a family. We are definitely less than 200 metres from breaking waves here. So that's amazing. We love it. It's one of our favourite things of this aspect is that we can see breaking waves from our kitchen. We're often looking out and whale spotting over breakfast. It is really idyllic. But with that does come its own unique set of challenges designing for such an extreme coastal environment. So, we have to consider the durability of materials. We have to consider, exposure to weather conditions like heat, wind, sun, obviously, so that UV protection was really important to install on the windows. We also are quite close to a busy road, which is noisy, so all the windows and doors are double glazed to help with the noise reduction. I'd say one of the most unique materials that we used in the home was on the kitchen island bench. We rendered that completely in a 4-crete micro cement. It's very durable, very hard wearing. It's VOC and solvent free, so particularly when we're preparing and cooking food around it, we don't have to worry about what we put down on it because it's so safe to use and it looks great. It's got this beautiful monolithic look to it, and I think it really complements the details of the kind of beachside aesthetic of the cladding on the walls and the profile of the kitchen cupboards, and then you've got this super minimalistic bench top, which is in contrast to everything else, but I think that makes it quite unique. During this process of the design, there was a constant push and pull of my own aesthetic and also respecting the local vernacular of the beach cottage. I didn't want the design to feel out of place here, so definitely considering that local context was important. And I think as a result, what we've ended up with is really aesthetically appropriate home, but with that minimalistic influence of my own aesthetic, which means we have this house that, looks and feels great, makes sense to the area, but one that we are really comfortable in. One of our favourite parts of the home is the back area. I think it feels like it just completes everything for us. It pulls together the beautifully, renovated facade and the back of the property. And although it could be overlooked as this middle part of the home, it's where we added a skylight so it draws in lots of light, and that kind of helps filter out through the whole space. It's just turned into a really usable area for us. I can see ourselves spending a lot of time out there. It catches all of the afternoon light, so particularly in winter, we'll be out there. One thing I did do was I wanted the house to reflect my own personal values, and I do really value the Australian design and manufacturing industry, obviously being the industry that I am a part of and work within. So I challenged myself to specify, where possible, only Australian made products. So for example, the kitchen bench is an Australian quartzite. The ceramic tiles in the bathroom produced in Australia. That's quite hard to find, and whilst that limits the scope of what you can select, I find it quite helpful to provide myself with a framework from which I can make decisions within. Moving here has definitely changed our lifestyle. We can, enjoy the beach and bushwalks at our fingertips. We still work in Sydney, and I feel like we're really lucky to have this community down here, but also still part of, our work community in the city as well. It feels like we have the best of both worlds.